Good evening, and welcome to episode 18 of the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host, Lockefox, and we have some great news in store for you this week. If you hadn't seen the 07 show, the nearly monthly show from CCP, where they go through and talk with the devs, aired this morning if you're in the US, or this afternoon. And so we got a bunch of news. I'm actually really surprised how much news we have, because we're ahead of the schedule I anticipated. So, before we get into all that, let's talk about the show really quick. Again, if you want to talk with me off of the air, come join me on the Tweetfleet Slack server. The information is in the channel information on Twitch. It'll be in the YouTube doobly-doo. Look for the channel Prosper, and that's where we talk about market and tool development and industry stuff, so come hang out there. 2, it is CSM season, so I'm going to go ahead and move this from the end to the start. With the CSM voting open, which you should go vote, I wanted to go ahead and highlight the candidates I am supporting here in this run. I'll have a blog out, so I have a blog out with rather specifics about each of these candidates. You can go get that at eve-prosper.blogspot.com. I'm also going to do a bit of a soothsaying prediction thing to try and figure out who is actually going to be on the CSM, but it's very important that you go vote. I wholeheartedly support these candidates. I also support a whole dozen more beyond this, but wildcard slots are few, so make sure you're getting your vote in. And again, I have all sorts of information about every single one of these candidates. If you want to go read, it'll all be on the blog. I'm still looking for logos for the show. I got a submission from Agatir Solinth. He whipped up a pretty cool show banner, and I'm really happy with his work, but I want to make sure that I'm also still looking for a square or small rectangle, very small, simple sort of news logo, the MSNBC or ESPN style, C-SPAN, whatever, vector logo, so I can put that on icons and maybe do a ticker on the bottom of the show. Still looking for that. I'm going to put up 2 Plex for reward, one for the show banner, specific show banner, and a second for basically a little newsy icon. I don't have Agatir's submission up yet. I hadn't cleared that with him before we went live, but I hope to have something out on Twitter maybe tomorrow. I'm really happy with the stuff he's done. So again, I'm more than happy to take suggestions for banner style and or banner splash page style, and I'm still looking for something that's small, vectory, and square for the channel icon, so that's still open. With that out of the way, let's start talking about the news. As I said before, the CSM voting is open. Remember to redeem the blueprint for the new Concorde shuttle. They're really pretty, as you can see up here on the thing. If you need to know about the CSM, there is tons of information out there. I suggest you start at Cap Stable, because they did an amazing series of interviews. Also, Jita Park is another good place to start getting some information. CCP Lilu released a candidate listing, which I'm going to go post in the channel, and it will be in the YouTube doobly-doo, of course. And I've done an official rundown of my candidates, so just go vote. Seriously. Also, unrelated, the new player opportunities have been launched on TQ, which is ahead of the schedule I anticipated they'd be released on. So go check out the new player experience and send feedback to CCP Rise. Next, let's talk about the 07 show with CCP Nerf Bat. The 07 show is a nearly monthly show where they talk about the upcoming releases, and they talk with the devs that made it. And CCP Rise came out with his Nerf Bat a-swingin'. Let's talk about the things that CCP Rise hates. Things like defensive subsystems, and medium railguns, and bouncer sentry fall off on optimals, fighter drone assist on carriers, Ishtar DPS, rather obviously. So here's another graph they showed on the 07 show of PvP damage by ship type, and that high orange line is the Ishtar, which has been cutting a swath through nullsec PvP. So the specifics haven't been released yet. They should be out in the next couple of days. If you were following Reddit, this nerf was hinted a couple of days ago, and we're going to talk about the expected nerfs at the end of the show in the look back section. So keep tuned to the end for that. I'm also going to have links to everything that's been released, so you can go read up on yourself on YouTube. So make sure to tune in there. Next, the Corp UI changes have been announced, but they're just in a dev thread. So go and check the thread for that. The next piece that I found interesting, just because the prizes are so huge, is they're running a cosplay contest at FanFest, and I've always been a fan of the little. I'm a big fan of this picture of the big red boat. I want an outfit like this so I can go to various conventions and be space captain of space. There are some huge prizes if you're going to FanFest and you are at all interested in cosplay stuff. There's a lot of Plex on the line and a tour of the CCP office, either this year or next year, depending on your travel schedules. So, if you're going to FanFest, you guys should go and dress up, even just a little bit. There's some pretty awesome prizes. And then the last thing is this UI modernization blog just came out. If you'd been following some of the other, there have been murmurs about this for a few months, but this is going to be a replacement for the boxes in space kind of thing. So I know that I've always been frustrated that I can't tell the difference between a destroyer and a cruiser, for instance. So things like player ships, and I believe this is also going to apply to NPCs that are in space. So this should make figuring out what's going on way easier. So I'm really happy to see all of these. This was a dev blog that was released today. So with all of the news out of the way, let's move on to Plex. So I had to go pull a fresh one today because the thing from yesterday had this dip, and I was like, that's not a real thing. Let's not report about that. Again, we've been staying steady around 800. There was this dip that looks like a set of mistake orders perhaps, or a large buy order that moved the average. But the trending line is staying pretty tight on that 800. So the short term until FanFest prediction stands. We're looking at somewhere in the order of 800 to 810 until FanFest. But if you're a gambling man, you should be watching. This would be a good chance to buy, because the Sov blog is going to be a big opportunity to rev some life back into the market. And as general enthusiasm grows, as Null starts grinding up into activity, I expect the prices to rise to about 850. Now, I have a hard time believing we're going to get much higher than 850 before FanFest or even after FanFest. But I think we're going to finally see us get off this 800 floor and start moving up towards at least 820, hopefully 850 by April. So that's my predictions on Plex. I think it's an excellent opportunity to buy. I think it's an excellent time to be Plexing your account, but I expect that party to be over very soon. Moving on, let's talk about minerals. Trytanium took a big dip this week, and as I've been saying since the start of the year, we've been seeing this slow decline, which I still think is weird. Like, it still seems like with IS Boxer fleets not as preferable, we should be seeing less miners and we should be seeing less Trit produced. But I think we're also seeing less Trit consumed on the consumption side. Trit consumption way down, that is causing us to be in this oversupply pattern. This recent dip under 5.9 may have something to do with the backroom murmurs about supers and the upcoming SOV changes that are being announced next week. I don't have anything conclusive to point at, but the sort of whispers I hear is that we may not be seeing super proliferation be as viable a tactic moving forward. I have no idea what that actually means, and if that's the case, then I expect minerals to keep falling because capitals are what are soaking up most of the production. Just to be contrarian, pyrite is up, but I expect it to once the market's decisions have been made, we should be trending back. Pyrite and Trytanium should be tracking together. It's worth noting that the volumes are pretty low in the last couple of weeks, with only a small spike over the last weekend. So again, I think this is doldrums behavior. It's going to be hard to call. Moving on, Mexlon has been a bit of a bumpy ride. This is another one I expect to spike or crash purely on capital news. The prices keep trending down, and it's a week trending down. We should stay on that path until the news about supers and capitals really gets locked in. Isogen keeps doing these crazy spikes because of these large buyouts resetting the price. I really don't think that anything over 130 is a sustainable price, but again, we're going to live and die on that capital news. I think this price is going to pop very soon, so if you need to buy Isogen, I'd wait a couple of days. Noxium is leveling off. It had been on a rise for the last few weeks, and it's locked in at about 660. Again, I expect this to stay relatively flat. It might get back on the slight uptick over the next week or so, but I wouldn't make any bets on Noxium. Zydrine is trending down. We have been at parity with the IS Boxer announcement for a couple of weeks now. I expect it to stay in this 410, 420 region for the next few weeks. I expect Zydrine to just have the same fallout as everything else. It's really not going to be an interesting show. And Megasite keeps trending down, but it has leveled off in the last week. Again, I think this has to do with Null sort of biding its time. And once Null figures out which direction it's going, Megasite should be trending down again. So I think we're going to stay at 720 or 725 where we are today for the next week or so. But as soon as that SOV blog comes out, you're going to want to watch Tech One Minerals. And this was an interesting one. Last week we saw a big spike in Morphite, and we've been seeing more volume consumed lately. It's still down from earlier in the year, but we're seeing the price stay high at 6,000. I expect Morphite to go up. No matter what happens with the SOV blog, I expect Null to start consuming more things that need Morphite, so bombers and interceptors and interdictors, and maybe hacks, but probably not. The Morphite consumption should be on the rise, and I expect the price to climb with it. This would be a definite buy if you have the stomach for the mineral market. Moving on to fuel. Fuel is going to be a rather boring trip this week, and I do have it on my to-do list to rework the way we talk about fuel, but it's going to be a few weeks before I can get that out. Nitrogen isotopes took a big dip last week, but recovered and continue to stay at the just above 805 level. Again, nitrogen should stay flat. No reason to think it should go either way, even with the SOV changes. Now, if it's particularly bad for capitals, all isotopes are going down, but nitrogen is mostly consumed by industry, so I kind of expect an uptick in industry to wipe out the downtick in people using their non-existent Caldari capitals. So, Caldari fuel blocks staying stable, nothing really to report here. Oxygen isotopes have leveled off, staying above 700 in the 710 range. If the news is particularly bad for capitals, I expect us to dip under 700 on oxygen isotopes, but not much lower. Galente fuel blocks remain relatively stable. I wouldn't put money on this dip today. So, helium isotopes are finally trending up. They've been down at 600 for weeks now, and hopefully this trend continues. I think that 600 for ice is too cheap for the effort involved, but that's all going to be reliant on if people are consuming it. So we'll see. I have a hard time arguing which way this one will go. If it's particularly bad for caps, we could see it fall back below 600 and start trending towards 650. Amara fuel blocks have had a recent ping up, but I think this is just weekend warrior kind of stuff. We should be seeing the same cycles we see everywhere else. And lastly, hydrogen isotopes took a big jump up towards 700. I have a hard time believing this is real among all the other isotopes. We've seen slow falls down, and now we're all the way up to like 700 with hydrogen isotopes. If it's I think this is going to be overmined, and it's going to fall back down to about 630. And if you can get it at 630, I would hold on to it and sell it when it comes back up to 650. And Minotaur fuel blocks are showing that that same spike. They may spike over the next couple of days in response to this bubble the last couple of days, but I wouldn't put a bunch of money on it. Moving on to Outliers, we're going to start where we always start, with Moon stuff. Starting with fermionic condensates, had a shortage of some sort here, but I expect the prices to come right back into line to where they were. We're seeing a general weakness across the entire Techto marketplace. So, if you are a betting man, the Techto Moon Goo and advanced components is a place you're going to want to start putting down bets. What I expect is that if the SOV news is good and people get hyped, that we should start seeing things like bombers and interceptors and all of those great Tech 2 things start to rise up. This should mean producers need a lot more of this equipment, and we should see the tides rise across the Tech 2 spectrum, except in metamaterials. I don't really like betting on metamaterials. As I've been saying, we're in this really weak position on like phenolic composites. We're down way into oversold territory, and I really, really, really don't like seeing this, not half because I produce the damn things. This looks way too weak, and I'm really hoping we rubber band out of this. This is a place where I'm personally even going to put down some bets. Ceramic fibers also continued to be weak. They were overly strong for a while, so I don't know how much higher they'll climb. But this downward trend isn't healthy. I think it's aberrant. Another product we've been keeping a close eye on the show is dysprosium. Continues to be very high. I expected it to decay down from this level weeks ago, but we continue to stay high and decay very slowly. Again, we're going to be reliant on Sov news. Neodymium has been hot the last couple of weeks, but has come crashing down, which you could also see in the nanotransistor market. And then titanium was high. This is not very rare a material, so I don't know why it was as high as it was. But we're back down to what looks like an overcorrected level. But buying titanium is not a thing I would go do in general, because it's not really a bottleneck. We should be getting plenty of titanium in general, thanks to the location of CFC space and how much they mine the stuff. So, there's not a bunch to say here other than it looks weird. Moving on to PI products, we've been seeing some heat in the integrity response drone market. This spike up to 222,000, I think that's how high it goes, was aberrant, but we keep trending up. We'll see where this goes. The trend looks like we're going to stay hot for the next week, but I have a hard time guaranteeing that. Also, wetware mainframes are very, very expensive at the moment and might be a good place to be pointing your PI colonies at. Another interesting one is we saw a huge spike in the modified fluid routers, which I don't remember what these go into. I want to say it's T3, and I didn't have a chance to go look it up, but we're seeing a spike come through again. So if you need to buy them, I would hold off, and if you can sell them, this weekend is going to be excellent to sell them off. Also, the neurovisual input matrix, which I believe also go into T3, are extremely valuable, but this really looks like bubble territory, so sell them if you got them. Don't buy them if you can avoid it. Moving on to ships, let's talk about the Basilisk. I've been seeing some heat in a lot of the shield metas, and as of 2 weeks ago, there was a price spike, but it looks like we're in an overproduction slump at the moment. So if you need a Basilisk, now is the very best time to buy one. They are extremely cheap for what they are. I expect the prices to turn around as soon as the Techto material market does. Also, another popular ship this week has been the Scythe Fleet issue. It looks like we had a shortage and then an oversupply at the moment. So the action is over, but it's an interesting thing to pick out. Also trending way down is the Megathrown Navy issue. Now, this doesn't sell very much over any period of time, but it is a very cheap hull at the moment, so if you needed one, prices aren't going to get any better. Another interesting one to watch has been the Curse. We're basically back to the pre-change announcement. I want to say that was Phoebe, maybe? No, they were changed in Rhea, sorry. So they were announced, the prices went way high because they were thought to be so awesome, and then we've been in a slow decline. I don't know if this is a producer oversupply or if it's just not as cool as everybody thinks they are. They're getting really cheap, and they're going to keep trending down with moon prices, but I expect them to bounce back with the Sov change, so this might be a good chance to buy up a couple, again, if you're a betting kind of man. Another Tech 2 ship that has been looking super weak is the Heretic. We're still seeing, it does look like there was an overproduction slump here. So if you need a Heretic, the prices are great, but as far as PvP goes, I don't know where you're going to put them in your meta. I mean, interdictors are interdictors, of course, but if you need a PvP platform, the Confessor is amazing. So I don't know exactly where this fits in the meta. I don't know when the prices are coming back. Again, if the SOV changes come out to be amazing, interdictors are going to be a great place to be speculating in. But again, this is betting on a change that we're all just sort of winking and nodding at each other, so be careful. Moving on to modules, I have a couple of cloaking devices that have been going weird ways. The Caldari Navy cloaking device and the Dread Guristas cloaking device. Now, if you've never bought a meta cloaking device, the things you stick them on are Black Ops because of the speed bonus, or you put them on Titans, but if you're going to put them on Titans, you're going to put a purple, an officer one on your Titans. So these are mostly going into Black Ops, and it looks like there was a shortage here in the Caldari Navy area, and there may have been a big sell-off to cash in on that, but if you've got Caldari Navy faction warfare points or loyalty points at all, this might be a good chance to cash out for maybe 4 or 5 and ride this into the weekend. I expect this bumpy ride to sag back down with it by the end of the weekend, but it may last for the rest of the week. There isn't a ton of volume in this market. The interesting one is Dread Guristas cloaking device should have basically the same attributes, and it has been trending down. Now, it's right now much cheaper as a substitute, and if you're in the market for a cloaking device, you might want a Dread Guristas one instead of a Caldari Navy one, but I didn't get a chance to look up the exact cloaking bonus they get, so I might be completely off my rocker here. So they're a good price right now. They may not still be a good price by the time this show gets on YouTube, so as always, do your research. Another interesting module that's been trending rather high lately is the small tractor beam ones. These things are basically all Trytanium, and I would expect that as the Trytanium market slumps, these should follow, but we keep seeing these weekend bumps, so this might be a good chance if you can build some or have some spare to go sell them. I would expect the prices to drop again real soon here, but I don't know. I can't give you a date. And it might be a good chance to hold on to some, expecting another weekend bump. So I don't know who's driving this buyout or what's actually going on here. And then I think I'm going to close this section of the show on the Tech 2 markets have been showing a lot of Tech 2 items have flagged, and Tech 2 items generally don't flag, at least the useful ones that you'll actually see on ships. I get flags for things like Tech 2 ECM all the time, and those things don't count. So, right now we're looking at 1400mm Howitzer artillery 2s. This particular spike looks like it's due to the Morphite price, and it looks like it's settling back down to where it was, but Signal says it can go either way. So volume is rather higher than usual. This might be a good chance to go build some. I would be careful, but optimistic. 10 meganewton afterburner 2s also did a big pop. Now, I've always been in the same boat as Rippard Teg when it came to Tech 2 afterburners and micro warp drives. Is I thought you basically wanted to use the Meta 4 because the fitting is better and the bonus is the same. So, but they continue to be popular, and the Tech 2 10 meganewton afterburner market is very popular at the moment. Now, this could also be tied to the Tier 3 destroyers, but it might not be. So, not sure exactly per se, but just a general trend that a lot of Tech 2 is up, and it might be a good chance to build some Tech 2. Also, nanofiber internal structures. Again, this looks like it's due originally to the Morphite spike. We're coming back down pretty quick. I wouldn't build nanofiber internal structures if you don't know what you're doing. They are a very big market, and the margins get competed out pretty fast. Also, small anti-kinetic screen reinforcers flagged. Again, Tech 2 across the board has been hotter than usual, so just keep that in mind if you're a Tech 2 producer. Moving on to the prediction review here at the end of the show, we're going to talk about the stuff they brought up in the 07 show, and one is the Bouncer, which this is the Bouncer 1 we're looking at, and it took a big dive days before the thing was actually announced. So if you're a tinfoil hatter, copy and paste this slide into your tinfoil rant about people getting information before other people. But it's Bouncer 1's, so I don't think that's actually the problem, but I thought I might as well feed the trolls. Moving on, we have the Ishtar, which has been low and slow for a while. People in the know have been expecting an Ishtar nerf, and we should continue to expect it, but we also continue to see very high consumption in the order of 250 a day. So we'll see what happens. Even if they get nerfed, I think that it'll be, all that we'll do is move towards we'll start transitioning to a new flavor of the month. Prices are going down. I don't know when the floor is. I don't know what exactly the floor is, but it's still not necessarily a terrible ship because they're still consumed like hotcakes for PvE, even if they're not used for PvP. And then the Tengu was hinted at in a chaos build notes that got leaked onto Reddit. The Tengu and the Loki have been scraping rock bottom here, and I would have predicted that the price would keep going down, but I really think we're at the floor of where the Tengu can go. So, if you can, this is a good spot I would personally think about investing in, because, again, I don't think the prices can go much lower. I think we're at the point where producers are going to start culling production because the margins are just so awful. But the Tengu is still a popular platform. You still have it as a popular heavy missile meta. I still freaking hate the Tengu personally, but I think it's overrated. But I seem to be the only one. So, moving on to my actual predictions. This one I feel super bad about. So, this is a medium asymmetric remote shield booster. And last week, it flagged for this giant dump right down into this 2000 territory. And I just wrote it off when I was going through the numbers as, oh, that's just a reset. And then it spiked back up again, back up to 12,000. So I feel like a total heel. This was a great opportunity, and I friggin' missed it. It flagged on several weeks, and I didn't bring it up on the show. So I'm so bad at this. Another interesting one I should have brought up last week, but I'm glad I didn't, is the Imperial Navy Heavy Capacitor Booster. Was extremely popular, looks like a bit of a shortage, and then gross oversupply. So if you need an Imperial Navy Heavy Capacitor Booster, now's a great time to buy them because they are grossly oversupplied at the moment. And then, this is in the wrong section because I'm bad. And last is the True Sansha reactor control units are extremely hot this week. Again, I don't know why versus a Tech 2 reactor control unit, why you'd want a True Sansha one, other than green is cool. But they're hot. If you have some, I'd sell them. And that should be the end of the show. Again, I tease the violence report and don't have a violence report. So, that's the end of this week's show. I have been your host, Lockefox. And this has been the Eve Market Show for the week of February 26th. If you want to catch the show, it's live on Fridays at 0300 at twitch.tv/HlibIndustry. You can reach me on Twitter at HlibIndustry. If you want to talk to the show off the air, I invite you to come join the Tweetfleet Slack server. The channel is Prosper, and we talk about tools and market and all that great stuff. And again, check out the blog at eve-prosper.blogspot.com. That is the show, and I'm going to go ahead and as a last reminder, go vote for CSM for frack's sake.